Begin here, and today I have the third part of the Spikes Tactical AR-15 build, and this is a very important part, and I'm going to dedicate one video to this piece right here, and this is the bolt carrier group right here that I ordered from Spikes Tactical. So let's go ahead and open the box and see what's in there. So what we have here is we have the bolt carrier group completely disassembled, well almost completely. We don't have the bolt disassembled, and most bolts you can buy them taken apart, but basically what you have here is our extractor, you know, your standard AR-15 extractor, and then there's a little pin in that holds it in, and then there's a spring on the back side of it underneath there, and then same thing with our little ejector right there. But we're not going to go ahead and take that apart. We're just going to leave that, and then it also has our three little gas rings installed. But we're going to go ahead and talk about our gas rings right here, because those are important. And just like the rings on a piston rings on a engine, this is a piston in this bolt right here, and this has three rings right there. And the first thing you want to do is make sure that the gaps in the rings are evenly or spaced apart. They're not on top of each other. And as we can see, they are, and they look just fine here. The second step is we're going to go ahead and put a little grease on the bolt before we install it, and just a little bit. Mostly we're going to go after those rings and make sure there's plenty of grease on there, and you know, so I have just a little bit on my finger, and we'll go ahead and we'll lube those up right here, you know, and then we'll put a little all over. This bolt right here is going to get very dirty because this is, you know, gas is blowing right on top of it, so we're going to give this a light coat of grease. So we're greased up right there. And then the other thing is, one of my favorite things is good old Rem oil. And we are going to give a nice coat of Rem oil to our bolt right here. And the way this works is when it's in battery, the bolt's jammed all the way back in the carrier. And what happens is gas comes down our gas tube into the gas key and pushes forward on that piston, and that's what those rings are sealed for. Pushes forward, which rotates the piston, the bolt just a little bit, and then the carrier goes back and it pulls it out and it takes it out of the grooves out of the barrel, and that's how the gun cycles. So this is ready to be installed right there. And our next thing we'll look at is we'll go ahead and we'll look at our cam pin right there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put a little grease on the cam pin, because the cam pin sees a lot of use. And every time you fire the rifle, it's going to cycle, and this pin's going to spin around. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a nice coat of grease on there. So we got some grease on there. So right now let's take a look at the carrier. And first thing we'll see is our carrier is basically one piece of steel, except for on top of it is our gas key right there. And you see there's two Allen bolts holding that down. You can tell those are staked right there, which means these bolts will not back out once the rifle's being fired, and that can lead to a catastrophic failure and blow up your gun and maybe injure the shooter of the gun. So that's correct, and that looks pretty good. So the one thing we're not going to put any grease on is the firing pin. You don't want any grease on the firing pin, because you want to keep that light, and you don't want that getting stuck in our bolt carrier group. And especially in cold weather environments when grease will get harder and firmer. You know, you definitely don't want that. In any firearm, you always want to keep the firing pin pretty dry. But one thing that's fine for it is a little old Rem oil, and with the Teflon in here, Teflon's a dry lubricant. So we'll go ahead and basically just sprayed that down. We'll go ahead and wipe the excess off. So next thing, we'll go ahead and we'll put this together. So on an AR-15, we eject on the right-hand side, so we want to make sure our extractor's on the right-hand side and our ejector is on the left-hand side. So we will go ahead and we will put that together right there. There we go. And just rotate us around, so that looks pretty good. And if you can see right there, you can see our hole right there. Make sure our hole's good. Next thing we'll do is we're going to drop our cam pin in there. And that hole in the cam pin is where the firing pin goes through, and the firing pin kind of holds it all together. So we'll go ahead, we'll spin that around, drop that in. That went in good. Spin it around so the holes line up, and we'll show you this. As you can see air all the way through. That is where light all the way through. So that is where the firing pin goes. So we will go ahead and take our firing pin and drop it in there. And then our last step, that's just our little pin right here. And I'll put there's grease all and oil all over my fingers right now. So we'll go ahead and we'll slide that in. So that's it right there, and that is our bolt carrier group right there, fully assembled. So let's go ahead and talk why and you can see that's the function of it right now. You can see as the jaws here are turning, you know, our cam pin is moving, and this is all working perfectly. So the reason I bought the Spikes Tactical Nickel Boron one, and this is definitely, I spent some money and I upgraded this AR-15 build here, is because the upper receiver in an AR-15 gets filthy and is a pain in the butt to clean. So the nickel boron coating it's a nickel coating of nickel with a little bit of boron in it, makes it much smoother. So this is, I can already tell this is going to be so much easier to wipe down. This firearm right here. And the other advantages to a nickel boron coating is you're going to aid in lubricity. Because the coating of the bolt carrier itself and the bolt is smoother, so it's going to actually work better in the upper receiver, and these two pieces will work better and with the cam pin with each other. They're smoother surfaces. That means there'll be less resistance, and that will also lead to the result of heat, more heat dissipation. Since these are smoother, it creates a greater contact interface between the carrier group and the upper receiver, and aluminum dissipates heat, so the heat will leave this carrier into the upper receiver a lot quicker than it would on just a regular steel one, you know, with like a phosphate coating or some other coating, because you know you're blowing hot gases right back, and this whole thing is coming out of here. It's the whole unit gets very hot. So those are your advantages. So it's not just cleaning, but it's extra dry lubricity and also heat dissipation right there. You know, what will help this run you know, and it also looks slick too. You know, when you open up that dust cover, you see a little spider there, and it definitely looks cool. So, but it's also functional too. So I appreciate you folks watching the video. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. Keep an eye out for extra videos out there, you know, for the other videos coming in this series, and follow along, and thanks for watching, folks.